In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about some important American indexes which shows the overall health position of the economy. And there are basically three main indexes to be tracked on American stock market, and these are Dow Jones, S&P 500 and Nasdaq. So let me just explain each one of it one by one. First one is Dow Jones. The DJIA or Dow Jones Industrial Average is one of the oldest stock market indices in the world and also one of the most popular one. It was started by Charles Joe in 1896. The index comprises of 30 large publicly traded companies located in United States. And the industrial average was first calculated on 26th of May 1896. The composition does not change frequently. That means new stocks or companies are not included in the index easily as compared to other indexes. You will get an idea of that from the fact that Apple right now, the second largest market capitalization company, was only included in the index on 18th of March 2015. And Microsoft was added on 1 November 1999. Also when it was at its peak or almost peak, because there were a lot of dot-com bubble tech companies were on their peaks, so Dow Jones doesn't include companies very frequently in the index. The index is keenly watched and tracked by the whole investor community, as it is supposed to show the overall health position of the stock market and also the economy. It is a price-weighted index, and so the change in price of stocks determines the index value. Some famous companies included in the index are morganchase, Nike, coca-cola, Goldmansachs, IBM, etc. And as of end of October 2015, the float adjusted market cap of DJIA was $5.2 trillion. Now coming to the Nasdaq or Nasdaq Composite is a stock market index or one of the three musketeers of American stock market, the other two being Dow Jones and S&P 500. And it is widely followed by anyone who has some interest in the stock market. One thing to note here is that Nasdaq Stock Exchange is really different from Nasdaq Composite Index. So don't confuse between the two. Nasdaq Index is an indicator of how the companies listed on Nasdaq Stock Exchange are performing. It was started in 1971 with 50 companies included in the index. However, the index includes all the companies that are listed on Nasdaq Stock Exchange with a few restrictions. So the number of companies right now in the index is well above 3,000. On an average, 1.5 to 2 billion shares are traded on a stock exchange. It consists of common stocks and similar securities like ADRs, tracking stocks, etc. And we are not gonna get into what ADRs are because it's not that important as of now. So let me just focus on the index now. This index mainly includes tech companies, although the tech companies has changed a lot in the index since the dot-com bubble, because there were a lot of companies back then, and every few weeks or months new companies were coming in the market, and after the bubble burst the company went bankrupt and were thrown out of the indexes. So Nasdaq usually includes many companies and frequently changes the composition of the index, unlike the Dow Jones, which rarely interferes with the companies. It is a capitalization-weighted index, so larger the market cap, larger will be its influence in the index. Some famous companies included in the index are Google, or now you may call it Alphabet, Amazon, Facebook, Cisco, eBay, and also not to forget Apple. Finally, the market cap of the index as of November 2015 is around $8.5 trillion. And now let me just talk about the last index, that is S&P 500. The S&P 500 is another American stock market index just like the other two, that is Nasdaq and Dow, reflecting the overall position or tone of the stock market. The S&P 500 was developed by S&P Dow Jones Indices, a limited liability company. The index components, weightage of its companies, monitoring and maintenance are all done by the same company. The actual index was launched in 1923, but on a small scale, and wasn't popular back then. And it was first known as Composite Index and later known as Standard & Poor's Composite Index. The index started tracking around 90 stocks in 1926 and gradually increased to 500 in 1957, thus becoming the S&P 500 index. And that is why most people consider the foundation of the index to be 1957 rather than 1923. It comprises of 500 most widely traded companies, and for this reason is also considered the best indicator for the overall position of the market. The index represents 75% of the US equity market in terms of capitalization. Just like Nasdaq, it is also a market weighted or capitalization weighted index. As the index consists of 500 widely traded companies, it includes companies in a variety of sectors including energy, industrials, information technology, healthcare, financials, and consumer staples. Some famous companies in the index are Adobe Systems, American Express, Boeing, Broadcom, Chevron, etc. And finally, the market cap of the index as of 31st August 2015 is $18.5 trillion. So these were some really important American indexes that I thought of telling you. And if you have any doubts, then ask me in the discussion forums.